Amy Iannatelli, Executive Director of Circle of Friends Services. This is Barbara Defazzio, President and CEO of Circle of Friends Services. Circle of Friends is a nonprofit organization that provides community mental health to children and families in the child welfare system. We provide outpatient counseling to both children and families. Today we are going to talk about why adopted children will want to search for their birth parents. This is a clinical issue that we often deal with in our work, and Barbara Defazzio is going to talk a little bit about that process, and then we're going to answer some questions.
Okay, thank you, Amy. One of the things that we come across a lot in working with our children and families in the child welfare system are children who are adopted out of foster care and placed with adoptive families, sometimes at a very young age, and then get to be 12 or 13 or 14, and they suddenly want to search for their biological parents. And it is a question that comes to us as therapists a lot as to why. I adopted him when he was 2 or 3 or 4, and now he's 13. Why does he want to look for his biological family? Does it mean he doesn't love us anymore? Does it mean that our adoption has failed? Does it mean that our attachment and bonding that we worked so hard on is suddenly broken? It doesn't mean any of those things. Searching for one's biological roots is just a normal part of growing up. Think back to when you, as adoptive parents, were 12 or 13 or 14, you looked for your history, you looked for your origins. You wanted to know why you had blue eyes or blonde hair. You wanted to know why you were so good at math or music or art. Was there somebody in your family that had those traits and skills? It is absolutely no different for the adoptive child, except that it takes a slightly different form. They have to search for a family outside of you. And this can be a very scary time for both children and parents alike. And that's why we wanted to talk to you about this today, to try to normalize this process, to try to tell you that there is nothing abnormal or unusual about your biological child trying to find their biological roots. Your child may not want to tell you that he is doing it or she is doing it because they may feel that it will hurt your feelings. You may feel very threatened by the fact that they are doing this, and you may feel that they don't love you anymore. None of this is true. So what do you as adoptive parents do? The day that will come that your adopted child will say to you, I want to find my biological family. I want to know where I came from. I want to know what my history is. It is your job as adoptive parents to support this process. No matter how scary you find it, you must support this process because you don't want to leave them to do it alone. Amy is going to talk a little bit about some of her experiences in working with families, but what I would say to you is that remember when you adopted a child from the foster care system, that child had to be either given away, rejected, or really let down by their biological family in order for you to come along and adopt that child. So there is a fair chance that in this search, this child will find something that will disappoint him or her, and you don't want to leave that child alone in that search. So I'm going to turn this over to Amy and let her talk a little bit about some of her experiences that she's had in working with adoptive families who've grappled with this very normal but very difficult issue.
I first like to talk about working with their young children in this process. While their young children aren't ready to start searching for their biological family or even talking about searching for their biological family, their young children are remembering their biological family and have memories of them, and they want to be able to share them in a normal, happy way. And this is an opportunity for adoptive parents or foster parents to really embrace that, help them to maintain those memories, talk to them about their parents in a positive, loving way. It will really help them in that process. And then when they are older and ready to maybe decide that they want to search for their biological families, they'll feel way more comfortable to be able to come to their adoptive parents and share that. Now, working with older children, they're more ready to begin that search or express that need to search. And they have the typical questions that a child who is searching for their identity might have, such as, what were my biological parents like? Did they have the same likes or interests that I do? What were their talents? What did they look like? What's my medical history? All of those are questions that they need to fill in the blanks for. They have this missing information. And adoptive parents being a part of that process is really the healthiest and most positive thing that they can experience.
One of the things that we find a lot is that our adoptive children, especially when they're adopted at a very young age, can grow up with a fantasy of what that family is like. And they can say to you as the therapist or the adoptive parent, I know my mother's out there looking for me. I know I have family that's looking for me. What if they've been trying to find me all these years? Now, very often that's not the case. And very often when our adoptive children do find their biological families, there is some disappointment in the reality of what those parents have become. You have parents that are incarcerated, drug addicted, dead. This is very, very hard for children to deal with on their own, and that's why we want our parents to take part in that search.
Yeah, and if the parents are there from the beginning of that process and open to exploring those memories and talking about their parents, then when it's time for this really difficult process of maybe searching for birth parents that are not meeting that fantasy parent that that child has, the adoptive parent is there to support them, and they have a support system there for them. The other issue that I've seen is, adopted children or foster children have these allegiance issues to their birth parents. And when a foster parent or an adoptive parent talks negatively about their biological family, this is hurtful to the child because they come from them. They're 50% of each of those parents. And a negative comment about their biological parent is then interpreted as a negative comment about the child. So be very careful when discussing their biological parent's history. Be very age appropriate and speak about them in the most positive way possible while still being truthful.
The other thing that we have to remember is that we are filming this in August of 2017. 20 years ago, when some of us began some of this work with adoptive parents, we did not have the social media that we have now. We didn't have the ability to get on Facebook or Instagram or any of the social outlets and search for people. So think about a small experience that you might have for trying to find someone that you went to high school with, and you find something less than desirable on Facebook about that person. That might be just something curious for you. For our kids, they have the very strong social media tools to go do this, whether you support them or whether you don't. So it's very, very important that you recognize that the search is going to happen. There are very few kids who don't want to search for their parents and their biological parents. It's just a normal part of the lifelong adoptive process. So join your child in the search as a family. Do this together. Amy and I have done a lot of years in this field, and we guarantee you that it will have a much better outcome if you join them, if you help them, and if you do this together as a family.
And the positive message that I send to children and to parents and to you is that there is room in their heart for everybody. I know this can be a very threatening process, but there is room in their heart for everybody.
Thank you for listening. We hope that this has been helpful to you, and we hope to make you aware that this is normal. This is a normal part of the adoption process, and you'll get through it and you'll be stronger for it as a family. Thank you.
Thank you.